Ed Carpenter Racing has confirmed its driver lineup for the 2025 NTT IndyCar season. Now, after losing his seat with Aaron McLaren, Alexander Rossi is moving over to ECR to drive the number 20 Chevrolet full-time. Then, Christian Rasmussen received a promotion to a full-time race seat within the team, replacing Venus VK in the number 21 Chevrolet. And we'll have more on VK's departure later in our news segment. But Ed Carpenter will return just for next year's Indy 500 in order with a third car instead of running all of the oval races as well. So just one entry on the Indy 500 oval. This comes after ECR announced a new partnership with the Indiana-based business owner Ted Gieloff as well, who becomes a co-owner of the team and will bring the Spendler and Java House on board as new sponsors, the graphic courtesy of Ed Carpenter Racing as well. Yeah, so basically, Ed Carpenter announces Ed Carpenter will race in the Ed Carpenter team for the Indy 500. What a surprise. Being the Charters and Danica, it's probably good I'm not on the air tonight. Yes, between, yeah. Very interesting. You all know, you've already seen the grid chat, you two. Now, Matt, starting with you. Do you like Ed Carpenter Racing's 2025 driver lineup, and how significant is it for the team to add a new business partner who is also bringing in new sponsors?
That's good news, and we always like new people bringing in new sponsors, so that's a positive thing for ECR. Rasmussen at times this year has been very good. We know he's good because he's an Indy Next champion. So now getting him full season with the ovals next year, that'll hopefully prove well for him. Rossi moving across is an interesting one. I've been a bit critical of Rossi over the last couple of years, really. Since he was really in that championship contention phase with Andretti, he's just not really been at the races. He's had the odd result, good result here or there. Laguna Seca this year springs to mind for McLaren. But in all the McLaren sort of IndyCar mess, which we've again talked about at length over the last 18 months, that's another one out the door. And he's found a seat at ECR. Good for the championship that he's still there, because he's obviously got a good fan base, and him and Hinch do the podcast, and that's obviously very popular. So that's good. I don't like that Renus VK is a free agent. I thought he's been a little bit shafted here, perhaps. Been very good at Indianapolis, of course, over the last few years, as our friend Matthew Owens will agree with, in qualifying especially, because this year it didn't go quite so well, but he still managed to scrape through somehow after they repaired the car after the crash. So he'll be a very hot property in the free agent for an Indy 500 ride next year, you can be sure. Back to what we talked about at the top, where we know that there's going to be still plenty of cars to come at the 500. So I think it's all round, I think it's quite positive for ECR. It'll be interesting to see what a second change of clothes in the last couple of years does for Alex Rossi's career progression, I suppose, or career longevity in the IndyCar series. What do you think, Obi?
Yeah, I want to start off by saying I'm really excited to see Ed Carpenter Racing partner with this new businessman from Indiana, who's going to be bringing a lot of sponsorship dollars to his organization. And if you read Marshall Pruitt's in-depth article of what the financial situation has been like for Ed Carpenter Racing for the last few years, it was a really good piece. But Ed Carpenter Racing, it seemed like they've really had a hard time, trying to fund that program. And a lot of times when you naturally have trouble with funding, you're not going to be able to invest in the right places and being able to hire the right people to make sure that your program stays on the top. And we've seen, and looking at Ed Carpenter Racing's past, they really haven't truly been a regular contender since they had Joseph Newgarden with that team. I think Joseph Newgarden, got absolutely everything he could out of those Ed Carpenter Racing Chevrolets. And since he left, the team has kind of, slid well back into the midfield when Newgarden hadn't been in contention quite often. And I think that's the days that Ed Carpenter Racing wants to get back to, when you're in the fight like that, you're battling for wins on a regular basis instead of just one time per year for the most part at the Indianapolis 500. So I think that this is a very good investment. And Josh, you read it earlier during your charter segment, the comments that Ed Carpenter made, basically saying that this charter deal, made this deal possible to bring in this businessman from Indiana. So I guess if you're pro charters in this situation, you could say that it helped out in this instance where Ed Carpenter was able to get this deal done because of the new system that IndyCar puts in place. So for Ed Carpenter Racing, I think that this is excellent news for them. Really excited to see what they can do moving forward, and hopefully they can start to move further up the grid where they used to be during the New Guard era. So I think that's awesome for that team. And looking at the driver lineup for 2025, I really like it, to be honest with you. Alexander Rossi, looking forward to seeing how he gets along. At the very least, Rossi will be in contention for the pole for the Indy 500 if Ed Carpenter Racing continue to bring fast cars for the month of May. But I guess everyone's biggest concern is what's this going to be like, on the other oval tracks. Indy is really the only track where you really see Ed Carpenter Racing truly show up. Sometimes, well, especially Renus VK and behind the wheel, you might see a surprise finish on a road or street course. But the other ovals, Ed Carpenter Racing, they've really struggled at the other ovals outside of India. So there clearly needs a lot of work done there. And Alexander Rossi, he's gonna have quite a task on his hand next year, trying to drag this car up towards the front, because he might have a hard time on the tracks outside of Indy. Yeah, so we'll have to see how he gets along. But at the very least, Alexander Rossi is highly respected when it comes to offering, the feedback on a technical side. So I think that having him as the team leader / mentor to Christian Rasmussen is going to be very big for the team. And Rossi can help them evaluate the program and try to get them up further on the grid. And I think Christian Rasmussen has definitely earned this full-time seat. Was really impressed with what he was able to do with his part-time schedule this year. I think, like many young drivers, he was overly aggressive at times. And I remember, seeing him in practice and during the race in the Indy 500 making those bold overtakes. I kept saying to myself, I said, Christian Rasmussen is going to put it in the wall. I kept saying that if there's one driver in this field who's going to crash, it's going to be Christian Rasmussen. But actually proved me wrong and had a very good race in the Indianapolis 500. I believe he was actually the highest finishing rookie in that race, which is, very impressive on his part. So I think if Christian continues to mature, rein in that aggression a little bit and know the time and place when to do that, I think he's going to be all right. They're really excited to see what he can do with the full season under his belt. And also got to give a call to Ed Carpenter. We know when he wanted to get the number 22, the number 20 Chevrolet into the leader's circle, he made the hard call to put Christian Rasmussen in the seat for the remaining oval races, because as we've seen in recent years, Ed Carpenter's form has really fallen off on the oval tracks in general. And he felt that Christian Rasmussen gave them the better chance to get in the leader's circle for the 2024 season. And Carpenter was proven right, because Rasmussen was able to get them into the leader's circle. And if Ed Carpenter was behind the wheel, there's no telling whether or not he'd actually get in the leader circle. So so like I've said in the past show, I feel like Ed Carpenter, given how much he's invested in this sport and the fact that he's the team owner, I feel like he should be able to run the Indianapolis 500 for as long as he really wants to. So when he decides that he's done driving at the Indy 500, then that's that. But as far as the other oval races, I think he made the best decision, to put Rasmussen in this car. And I think it's also a really good thing for him that he said that I'm just going to do the Indy 500 only. I'm not going to run the other oval races. I know that's hard for Ed because he loves to race, but I think it's the best possible decision he could have made for this organization moving forward. Yeah, and overall, I'm just excited to see how Rossi and Rasmussen get along in 2025. And got some comments here in the chat. Ben says that Rossi's move is a great one if he wants to win another 500, but you fear that's the only time that he or Ed Carpenter Racing in general will be relevant next season. Yes, Ben. So we share some similar concerns there, and a lot of other people have said the same thing. But I will say that Rossi's probably in a better position being here at Ed Carpenter Racing than I guess say Ray Hall. If he was in a Ray Hall car, no disrespect to them, we might be talking about Rossi in the last row shootout, given what we've seen in the last few years from Ray Hall. So at least Rossi should be able to battle for the pole if history serves us well. And Jackson says easily the strongest ECR has looked in years on talent and financial backing. Yeah, things are really looking up for the organization, and we'll see if they can produce results once everything falls into place. And then Adam says that you think Alexander Rossi can steal a win or two next year. So Adam has a hot take there that Alexander Rossi might be able to steal one. But like we were saying, if it's one race for Alexander Rossi, probably the best bet would be the Indianapolis 500, because that's the one day of the year at Carpenter Racing truly shows up. But yeah, if he won 2 races, that would definitely surprise a lot of people next year.